It didn't work. But I do feel like there's something here. It's just waiting to be broken. I will be returning to this strategy. I switched back to using the trowel mix method, but this level is just too hard for using any nut that isn't exactly the primal walnut. So after switching up again to pure primal walnut spawn, and only an hour of attempts, we beat the notoriously difficult Day 5 of Pilot Seas. This challenge is so good. Day 6 marks the very last of my sanity withering away. Just listen to my incoherent ramblings and tell me this is what an able-minded, sane individual sounds like.
I try not to discriminate against crackheads because, I'm just not one to blame them for anything. Like, the UK is absolutely fucked. Our government does nothing to help. I sympathise with them. I promise you, I'm not someone who gets pissed off at crackheads or homeless people for just lounging around the city, right? I don't blame them for anything that gets the government's fault. I wish they would stop stealing my clothes stuff. That one maybe is on their little. I wish they would stop stealing my Yu-Gi-Oh cards out of the clothes. But they're not going to be playing Yu-Gi-Oh anytime soon. I'm sure. I can't imagine drug dealers take Yu-Gi-Oh cards in exchange for crap. I wish they would stop stealing my clothes.
After 40 minutes of attempts, someone pointed out that most of the zombies funneled into 2 to 3 lanes. The solo tomato's huge value hit, and honestly, this might have saved the entire run. It still took a couple more attempts after switching to the tomato, but we eventually got it done. Day 7 is the first time we're seeing the single biggest threat to this challenge yet, the barrel rolls. One of the cool things about this challenge is how it flips up the status quo of what's difficult in the game. I'm sure when I called this guy the biggest threat yet, a lot of you rolled your eyes and thought something to the effect of, the barrel roll is tough, sure, but he's nowhere near as bad as some of the later instant kill zombies. And to that I say, you are absolutely wrong. This zombie is a nightmare. See, his ability to flatten out nuts is annoying, but that's not the main problem here. If you move a barrel roller at all, either blowing him away or knocking him up or teleporting him through time and space, he gets disconnected from his barrel. And when that happens, imps pop out of either side, and more often than not, those imps will end up drowning to death. And it is my divine duty to safeguard these zombies, so it's my prerogative to make sure that doesn't happen. Luckily, the gun nut does hold them down, so Day 7 wasn't too challenging, until I blew away a flying zombie 10 seconds before the end of the stage. I wasn't even aware that the seagulls can spawn on land, so that's really annoying. Up till this point, I've been begging the game to give me a gimmick like this, so I have a bit of a mental belief, but I was not prepared for this. I generally got so worked up thinking of a solution just to load into it, and it's a pre-selected class stage. Disaster avoided. That's a future shot. Okay, I think this might be the best setup in the history of the franchise. Day 9 is one of the weird levels halfway through a world where they majorly bring down the caliber of zombie, so there's no bugs. I decided to use the sucker bow just as a bit of a loop, but I failed to realise, due to the weird setup of the level, all the planks were at the top. Instead of restarting and picking a different team, I created this masterpiece. I call it the garlic casino. When a zombie bites a garlic, it will randomly go up or down. That's why I always leave them in the corner so you can force them a certain way. But with this setup, I am fully reliant on RNG. This led to some incredibly nail-biting and genuinely super funny moments, like when these two did a little tango, and when this guy made it to the very end of the garlic race. I think this game could do with more funny random encounters. Day 10, I think it's time for another quirked-up strategy. I call this one the Blessed Machine. It involves spamming infinites and power levers to hold all 5 lanes at once. It's a cool idea that keeps flying zombies in line with other zombies, which has been a big issue so far. It really needs a way to reset zombies for the start, which unfortunately doesn't work in this way. But I think this could be a really cool way to deal with another challenge that I'm anticipating the very soon. I decided to switch up to double solo tonight, which, man, this may actually be really good. You could beat the entire game pretty easily with this strategy, if every world had 900 zombies coming 2 minutes. That said, this level still took like 40 minutes to finish, because the infinites lay on damage in ways that's really hard to do. Day 11 was the first level in so long which I took down the first track. There's still a couple of important things to note. Firstly, one of the major challenges in the passive run is that since we never kill any zombies, we never have any plant. Because of this, the power rate is a powerhouse. And you'll be seeing that in most of these levels. Secondly, another staple I picked up from here onwards is the reserve garlic. I've had to redo so many attempts where victory is narrowly stolen away from me by a single zombie that avoided the wall. So by bringing in emergency garlic, I can move it over to a lane with mow it intact. Finally, and most pressingly, the game is really starting to struggle with the amount of zombies on screen. Like, it can handle these zombies in the 10 right now. When you start to apply visual effects like the solar tomatoes glow and the stories stem, it gets really wacky. This is really bad, as later worlds have magnitude more zombies. And there's a real possibility that the game won't be able to handle this. Day 12 is the legendary coconut cannon. God, I miss him. It feels so weird to describe piracy as such a difficult world, but here it comes again, the Captain Pirate. This guy might be the worst instant kill zombie in the entire game to deal with. What do the Wizard, Octopus, and every iteration of the Torch zombie have in common? They all submit to the overwhelming weight of the kingdom. Those zombies are all challenge enemy threats that can easily be dealt with by gun nuts and other suppressing plants. The Captain, however, he will continue to steal away plants while being gunned. This is just a prediction, but I think that this is now the point where Walnut scores with power cut out of the game. It's basically impossible to maintain a wall to Captain about, so I really need to rely on instantly scoring hits. Luckily, day 13, when you enter this, the game slows down a lot so you can do this. But then there wasn't too bad. This video could be way longer than usual due to the unique difficulty of this type, and it's about to get a lot worse. Buckle in for day 14 of the Pirate series. This is a ton of defense. Off the bat, these levels are very challenging for a pacifist, but given how miserable this world has been, I decided to respect my own time by cutting the cute strategies and jumping straight to the view. So I brought up a path that I was planning to save till the very hardest levels in the game. So it's time to unleash possibly the most broken plant in the entire game. If you thought that abusing Power Lily was too much, let me introduce you to 36 Power Lilies in one, otherwise known as the Reinforcement. This plant effectively triples the defensive power of our army, all for the low cost of literally nothing. With this uber powerful plant, we're easily able to get absolutely thrash. Turns out the Reinforcements are useless. Not only do zombies just waltz through the Iron Lady and works all the same, but the Reinforcement causes imps to launch into the sea, so it's actually worse than that. Great. Time for a different approach. Seeing as this level is riddled with barrels and trappings, gunnet will need to carry. We get a lot of sun in this level, so I get a bit of a refill. I use tile tanks to multiply the power of our limited plant. This was such a cool idea, but better than this, the issue was actually overkill. Part of the plant would just fall off the map if you had the tile tank, so the tile tank just found needed, and due to the overinvestment in tile tanks, it didn't hold very long. At this point, I decided it's time to start using more of the power plants I've been holding back on. The Boyne Setter is a plant I'm surprised no one's commented on yet, because this is a plant that I think will end up being a major player in the later works. I'm backing this plant up with the mediocre but free item, at which point I'm not going to ice cream. This setup, in my opinion, is the highest ceiling of skill in the game possible, so I should have no problem with second roll of the game. No, actually that makes sense, that's intuitive. That's actually really cool. I need to break this all down more to possibly find one for this. As we already know, instant use plants here are enormous, as the Captain will steal the planet. But these instant use plants don't stop the sea. So these lanes will still need to be reinforced. It's crazy what it is. Possibly the biggest innovation that Twitch chat suggested was using the spear. If you use it at the very start of the level, we can dig up all the spike blocks and now ourselves a bit of sun. Nothing major, but enough to afford 2 or 3 more games. I have to do this twice at the start of the level. You've got to be quick, because these spike blocks are insane. The last tech they would use is actually the spike block. Remember I said the barrel roller is so much stronger than other instant kill zombies? Well, there's another reason for that. See, he doesn't actually instant kill, he just does a lot of damage. So much, in fact, it's essentially an instant kill, but importantly, it isn't. Zombies can't instant kill guns, just premium pretty quick. But zombies certainly are allowed to do a lot of damage to them. And unlike most turbo high damage threats like plants, this guy has a tiny health pool, perfectly nice with gun that's bonus. It's almost like this world is tailor-made to stop me from doing this stupid challenge. But I personally, by using the spike lead to pop the barrel while they're out of point range, we're able to not only decrease the amount of damage we're taking, but also increase the amount of bonus left behind after each gun. This strategy worked, but it took the last of my sanity. All in all, this level took a casual 5 hours of constant attempts. Just subscribe to my channel to restore my soul, please. Well, that level was actual biblical hell. I just begged the next level was gentle on my poor brain. You just can't make this shit up. Believe it or not, I'm actually prepared for this level. You can't do an impossible challenge like this without a little prep. So who's our unlikely saviour for this challenge? A lot of you guys made some really good guesses in the last video, but clearly no one can think outside the box like me because no one guessed that I would be using the teleportator line. That's right, the plan is to stall out the suck and blow, then teleport a zombie over the line with a teleportator, triggering the lawnmower. Well, that's the theory, so I'm not actually testing it out. And it turns out, you can't dig the teleportator. I am shit out of ideas. I spent a lot of time trying to figure things out. Here's the new plan. You isolate a buckethead zombie from the rest of the pack, and at the end of the level, you use a spike lead part you can move it over the front, triggering the lawnmower. Unfortunately, this one still counts as the zombie trampling the fire. Now, this next one is scratch. Maybe we can use my least favorite part in the entire game, the Sundew Tango. The idea is that the Tango subdues a zombie, at which point we use the escape route to relocate it. My jaw actually dropped as it started working, until it didn't. Look guys, I really didn't want to do this, but there's only one way I see out of this situation. The only solution to this problem as far as I see is to teach the zombies a more divine reality stuff. Now many of you have already pointed out, the solar sage is on the table. It doesn't hurt a zombie, doesn't disappear a zombie. In fact, you could argue that it's improving a zombie's well-being. And that's about as pacifist as it could possibly get. But I will be keeping the use of this plant to an absolute minimum for two reasons. One, this plant is beyond broken. It would trivialize the cannon. It's like the exploder nut on nuclear steroids. And maybe more importantly, reason two, I don't think forced religious indoctrination is the pacifist path you guys think it is. Regardless, I'll be using this monster on the absolute hardest levels in the game, and even then, only once per stage. Day 16 was one of the two levels I was most dreading. We need to protect some rather malicious little beings trying to kill zombies themselves. Luckily, thanks to the audience, who is much better at this game than I am, you pointed out in the last video that the escape route is a godsend. And you're right, it trivialized the level. For the first time in maybe 8 hours of grinding, this was an easy level. Day 17 didn't have anything too stand out to do with, so I decided to try a new strategy. I like to call this little maneuver the powerful polygon fingers, as the plan is to accumulate an obscene amount of gold so we can go off anyone we want no matter what. It worked. Again, it's a bit overkill and didn't really handle the sequel, but it did okay. Day 18 is a conveyor. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I wish this world had more conveyor. Day 19 is man, that's really sick. We did the same thing we did a couple of level backs, and that means it's time for Shagrot's patented micro presentation. And for this level, I'll be educating you on the most underrated animal on Earth. And what do I consider the most underrated animal on Earth? The dung beetle. Dung beetles are one of my favourite animals of all time. And I think it's really unfortunate they get such a bad rap. Dung beetles are unbelievable. People don't understand quite how strong they are. The average human can lift roughly twice as big. The average gorilla, considered to be the strongest non-insect on Earth, can lift 10 times as big. The average ant, that is often incorrectly considered the strongest animal on Earth, can lift 20 to 50 times its own weight. That's the equivalent to a human lifting a car. But the dung beetle, the average dung beetle can lift 1,141 times its own body weight. That is the equivalent of a human lifting 3 full cement blocks. To me, there's a real cosmic irony to the thing. To lift such an incomprehensible amount of weight makes it the pinnacle of body. There is no animal as strong as the dung beetle. And it has spent its evolutionary history perfecting its ability to lift, just to move pillar. If there's a god, he has a wicked sense of humor. Dung beetles aren't just strong, they're incredibly intelligent. Dung beetles will climb on top of their big pillars, and they will stargaze. They will look up to the sky and take a mental image of the stars, and that's how they navigate. That is just unbelievable. That's the end of this week's presentation. I hope you have a bit more respect for the dung beetle. Day 20 in the game starts feeling like the last levels of the game are randomly big and bloody. The toughest zombie on day 20 was a cone. We take those. Day 21 is a simple sun collection level. 2,500 pretty weak as far as challenges there. Have I not been tested in life? This level is the ultimate test in durability. In my first attempt, I created what might go down as the absolute worst combo of plants. I don't even know what to say. The jaw connect unsurprisingly did not hold well. Once they can the breaks in the cannon fire do leave a really small window to use the reinforcement without killing any enemy. With this strategy in mind, I go for a similar strategy but using gunmates to benefit from the reinforcement. I know that the pumpkins seem a bit insane when I can go for more bolts for much cheaper, but I really want to keep the first couple of free to afford myself space to use the reinforcement. This plan works surprisingly well. I didn't actually put the pumpkin in the theatre of more than nuts, but this one took under an hour to beat. That's a huge help. Clearly, I have 2 points from after that. The game chucks another flower. The only big mistake was including the sequel. Because of that, I'm able to maneuver them around and trigger the lawnmower without any using service. Day 24 is the level that I dreaded most. In the Nut Challenge, this is one of only 2 levels I have to cheat on to beat. Those 2 beans have cost me hours of my life stressing over this level, but in a much needed twist of fortune, the escape routes make this level pretty easy. Frustratingly, I realised only on the last level that I could have done this second blow basically the entire world by just replacing the hurricane with the gun. It achieves basically the same result. It was the same as yours. You notice as we go along this world, I tend to avoid the minecarts at all costs. I actually think it's one of the better mechanics in the game. I just can't really go. Day 2 introduces us to the first new zombie in the prospect. This zombie is is not that bad to be honest. A single hurricane deals with it. Day 3 in the world has wasted no time giving us another new zombie, and this time it's the piano zombie, or pianist zombie if you want to be proper about it. I've gone on record as to call a lot of zombies the worst, but this guy is the devil himself. Upon his introduction, I didn't pay him too much mind. Just another instant for a zombie to send on me. That was until I got to the very end of the level and narrowly avoided the loss by about 1 nanosecond. Let me pray for you. This zombie isn't a challenge, it's not difficult to play against. He is just so time consuming. The sex touches the amount of time it takes to do any level because the sheer amount of randomness of the zombies knows you have problem. This guy is the worst. They call the conveyor. I'm so glad we can skip over these this time because I cannot stand the Wild West conveyor levels. Easily worse than me. Day 5 and yet another zombie is introduced in the Great Zombie, which you guys informed me is a very obvious reference to Back in the Future, which I missed because I've watched about 5 movies in my entire life. For the first time in a hot minute, I'm able to say safely that this zombie is no threat. So far I've used the software because it's so much easier than using the wheel screen. Using the wheel screen learns a surprisingly high APM times. On day 6, I made a huge effort. Now I tried to force the owl into many a strategy, and whilst the parent never really benefits himself, he's just sort of there for the sake of it. For someone in Twitch chat rightly pointed out, I wouldn't need to keep replacing owl if I just throw owl in. I think this is the very first time the owl has actually felt like a real benefit. It's not a big difference, but it's much more comfortable. All that said, it didn't matter in the slightest because the piano just waltzed through. This day is a playing defense stage, which tend to be very hard in this challenge, and this one was no different. I spent ages working out a way to stall everyone out to the end of the level, but the only thing that could hold was reinforcement stuff, which, to be fair, helped me back effortlessly. And with all the zombies on the screen, all that's left is to let the real numbers go. So this is what makes this story unbearable. This level is easy. Gun nut plus reinforcement is a truly unholy combo. It takes absolutely no effort or thought whatsoever. Just 15 minutes of waiting around till all the zombies appear on screen, and then we cross our fingers that all the lawnmowers trigger at the same time, or that the zombies don't move into lowerless lanes. With every zombie moving up or down on a 50-50, it's just like passing 50 odd coin flips in a row. No big ask really. There is very little we can do about this. The guy can sweet potato could, in theory, be able to move zombies around, but those parts just sort of wrestle with the camera zombie going back and forth, and it makes it harder to find. This level, despite being ridiculously easy to stall out, took 3-4 hours of attempts. That's not the longest run has. I think the worst level to this day was 8 hours spent towards the big red beach and nut. And this certainly felt like it was as there's one more quirk to the piano zombie that I've not mentioned yet. Seemingly innocuous is the little jingle jangle of the piano's melody. This is a fun little addition to the regular playthrough of the game. But if your aim is to stall the game out for as long as you can, then you are stuck listening to this 3-second piano loop for hours upon hours upon hours. It is truly mighty. In the end, I was able to beat this level with infinite power. That allows us to make every zombie hit the lawnmower at the same time. I thought this would be a permanent solution to the piano zombie, but spoiler, I was never able to recreate the success throughout the entire one. Day 7 was the introduction of something way more important than a new zombie. It's the first appearance of my new VTuber on the thing. Don't worry, he won't be appearing in videos, but I was excited to take it out for a skit, so he'll be here for the next video. If you do want to see more of this cute little fellow, I'm following him too. Day 7 did have a piano, so it was pretty good. Day 9 was a given plant level. I just learned from the original Alex's latest video that these are called brain busters. You should check that video out. Day 10 is the first thing you have to do with the chicken wrangler. The danger of the chicken wrangler is a bit multifaceted. Firstly, these little hell spawns do a lot of damage, enough to make all the spawn entirely unviable. Secondly, if these zombies go untreated, they spawn chickens after the lawnmowers. But this isn't really a problem because thirdly, these zombies just trigger at random a lot. Totally unprompted, chickens will just spawn off screen in a way that's really hard to use. Fourthly, these zombies do not care about the parent count in the slightest. It's almost like these chickens made a little something, barely equal. Fifthly, there's about a 1 in 10 chance that each chicken will just ignore the sweet potato. And sixthly, and maybe most damning, is the fact that the sheer amount of chickens on screen and spawning out like this causes an insane amount of damage, turning levels that should have taken 50 minutes to beat into 40 minutes slots. The saving grace of this abundance of alien ones is that going forward, the gun that is turbo powered, and this part will shoot out 100 gun per use. Day 11 is an extremely interesting challenge I forgot existed. We're looking to this 500 subs. This is what I absolutely love about this series. This level would normally just be picking fire with any broken plant and sitting back as it fires away, but for this challenge, you really need to think outside the box. Ideally, one set will be sustainable, and I'm going to just apply for a bit of confusion. The idea of this strategy is to set up a single row of words in front of arrows on a minecart that can hit all the words on the map, while we span 0 across all of them. A key idea, but the arrow is practically useless. Credit where it's due, did pass us on the first try, but I do suspect the reinforce will probably have a larger contribution on it. Day 12 was just a simple skipping. Day 13 is a tiny little bit easy level, and you know what that means? It's time for our favourite part of the scene, which I wrote from my purpose. And this week is about the absolute least favourite content on YouTube. There are many forms of slow content. Reaction videos, AI swap, doom posting, any sort of build content, but for me, one type of slot remains key: how to succeed in YouTube videos. In my opinion, this is the absolute worst content on the platform. It falls squarely into the self-help category of videos we've already kind of stuff, and it's just millions of videos containing the exact same template. These content farms are always running almost obnoxious people, and they are always fast. Now, before I complain too much, before I let you know, I've been, I, like most people, always want to be in YouTube. And I used to listen to the videos every single day. We thought we knew the world views channels that have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers. And you just want to absorb that information so you can see success in life. But the issue is these channels just fake it. These videos themselves all annoying me. I assure you, it's all the time. These channels will play from experts in YouTube and know the algorithm, and their hope is always to have a large following. But the issue is these channels grow by just recreating this slope over and over and over again. That's how you the advice that you use in business success, but it hasn't. The videos try and sell you on algorithm access, blatant lies. This video claims people to lie about the recent area. Not only is that completely unfounded, it's dishonest and mean. This video claims that you shouldn't make a video unless someone else has already made that video. That's insane advice. But maybe the single worst advice these channels always give is to just steal content. It's so annoying. There are thousands and thousands of channels out there that just repeat the exact same video hundreds of times, telling you to steal content. They're not even seeing the most common advice in this video. And it's almost the customers who tell you to cuss, damn you. Chin scrapping a dick joke at the end of the video. How I got 29,000 subscribers in just by copying other people's content. The title's written that it's challenging, but how to steal content and thoughts with no stress and still go viral? There are tens of thousands of videos like this. I'll end this presentation by giving a bit of advice. I think it's fine to watch videos, there are a lot to learn. You just watch one or two, they are all the same. I think some of my more successful videos are how to learn master audio. Finally, the most boring advice is normally correct advice. Just keep making content. In piracy, day 14 is possibly the most difficult level of any world that any challenge ever had to do. But day 14 of Wild West may actually work. I'm not as well.
Welcome to the trap, mouse! Some falls don't begin in the sky.
Public transit is the big one.
Something within me, I don't know, old instinct maybe, said turn back.
How's your test go?